I have to say, unfortunately, my experience with breast care clinic in Pinderfields Hospital in Wakefield, I am naming and shaming now, was absolutely abominable, abysmal, whatever you want to call it. I felt like I was ignored. I wasn't particularly comforted by any of the information that I was given over the phone or by letter. The situation kind of went, I got an initial appointment, I went for the mammogram, and they told me categorically that because I was under the age of 40, they were only doing it because they'd been informed to do it by the genetics counselling. So I knew I was being looked after from there, but they then decided to tell me that if I had a callback, it was quite standard because they had nothing to compare it to. I thought, yeah, that's fairly logical. So I received a letter when I came back from a few days away with an appointment for another mammogram, and I rang up to change the appointment. Unfortunately, when I changed the appointment, I then received my confirmation, which suddenly had the words biopsy right breast. And unfortunately, when I rang up, they continued to lie. They didn't tell me the truth on the phone, and the situation didn't get any better. So what she told me was that because I had they'd found something, there was something on the scan they wanted to check out, I had to go and have a secondary mammogram, and then if they still weren't happy at that point, what they would do would be to possibly have a biopsy. This wasn't true. It was an out and out lie. She said that the problem is that they don't tell people over a letter, because if they're telling people that they have to have a biopsy over a letter, they get frightened. I can completely understand that. But unfortunately, I was turning up to an appointment at Pinderfield Hospital expecting to have a secondary mammogram, and that had never been on the cards. I was only down to have core biopsies, and they'd calculated how much they were going to have to take, and I was just absolutely shocked. I had no one with me because I was expecting to have a mammogram. Anyway, so I went in to have the biopsies, and unfortunately their calculations hadn't worked properly, so they prodded and poked and put me in machines in one way, put me in a machine another way, and they tried to take biopsies and they couldn't take biopsies. So I left really not knowing what was happening, and I was then told that they only meet on a Thursday. So because I had my failed biopsies on a Thursday, they wouldn't be able to discuss my case until the following Thursday. At which point I thought, oh, I'll get some kind of information then, and somebody will tell me what's going to happen. 3 weeks later, I still hadn't heard anything, and obviously, you start to get a little bit anxious. So I rang the secretary of the surgeon who I'd been allocated to, and her exact words to me were, well, it's only been 3 weeks. I'm still doing letters from September. Yours hasn't been done yet, and you won't be hearing from us until your letter reaches the top of the pile. I couldn't believe that she was treating somebody with that contempt. And I asked her if we swapped positions, whether she'd feel the same. 3 weeks when you've been told that you've got something on a scan that they can't biopsy is an awfully long time, believe me. Eventually I got an invitation to go in and talk to a surgeon about my options, and they said that looking at the scan, they weren't happy. The lumps needed to come out. There were more than one. They were unable to take a biopsy because of the lack of breast tissue, Ironic, because obviously had I not have lost the weight, I probably would have had enough to have a biopsy. So, for the first time in my life, I was being told that actually your health would have been less at risk had you had bigger boobs. So if you'd have been fatter, you'd have been better. But so they told me that they needed to come out. I'd done a lot of research, and I decided that with my genetics score, I would ask for the complete mastectomy. I don't think I could have handled waking up every day wondering if I had yet another lump, or if I had a lump in the, that was going to be missed. I decided to ask if they would do a full mastectomy, and the surgeon said he thought it was very sensible and he would back me at his panel meeting. So when I knew that he was on my side, I then suggested that if it was reasonable to have one mastectomy, would it be reasonable to do them both at the same time? So I had one operation, one surgeon, and then I would never have to have another mammogram or be at risk for the rest of my life. Again, he thought that this was a sensible plan, so they put motion to have the double mastectomy done. And so I met with my reconstruction surgeon, who I have to say was absolutely fantastic. I cannot thank Mr. Mohammed and his team. Karen, my breast specialist nurse, amazing, absolutely incredible. They were almost the complete opposite of the breast care department, although they were in the same hospital. It was pretty ironic. I told my family, which I have to say was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I don't think, having told them that I had to have the breast removed, I don't think I could have told them about the rape or about any of the other traumas that happened. Seeing them that worried and that concerned and that hurt, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I can't. People think that it's going to be easy. You've got support there. They're very supportive, but what can they do? What can they say? Nothing. At the end of the day, they can't make it better, which is what ultimately your parents want to do. So at this point, we had a couple of meetings, and I had obviously done some more research. Being me, I decided that I would look at my options of how the reconstruction would be done, and I went in with an idea in my head of how I wanted things done, which isn't unusual. And the surgeon sat me down and said, well, I'm not going to do a reconstruction with the muscles because you've got too much trauma in your back. You don't have any fat anywhere, any stomach fat. I can't use your abdominal wall to reconstruct any breasts. So the only option that you have is to have implants that I will make so that they fit under the muscles, and then we will inflate them after you've had them implanted. To be fair, I was quite shocked that this was the conclusion that they'd come to, because I was fully anticipating having to have some kind of battle, which is usually what I've had to do to get my own way with the NHS. But he was probably giving me a solution that was better than I could have anticipated, if I'm honest. So we scheduled my surgery. I had 6 weeks to, as far as I was concerned, get my body into the best shape that I could get it. I wanted to be as fit as I possibly could. I knew that if I could be as fit as possible, that my body would cope with the operation better. I knew that my cardiac fitness levels would help me get through the operation better, and ultimately through the recovery. I knew that if I could have my optimum levels that I could possibly have, I mean, obviously you could always improve, but if I could be the best I could possibly be, then I knew that I would get through the procedure with much more ease than I would have done. I mean, I couldn't imagine having to have done it either underweight or overweight. I was very lucky to have got my head sorted and got my physical shape sorted to the point where I could then just tweak things. By the time I got to my pre-op, I'd done a lot of cardiac fitness. I'd tweaked my diet to include things that were increased omegas, increased CLA. I was trying to give my body the best chance that it could possibly have. I went in for the operation and my resting heart rate, according to the anaesthetist, was that of an elite athlete. So I was pretty happy that I'd managed to get to as best a condition as I possibly could do. I had a 7-hour operation and I felt absolutely amazing when I came round. I've never felt so clear-headed when I'd had having had an operation. I had BP of 117/60 pre-op and throughout the entire operation. So I'd given myself the best chance. I couldn't have done anything else. My surgeon knew that I was a little bit enthusiastic, and I think he said the problem he might have was making sure that I rested enough, because he thought I might be a little bit too keen to get back to doing what I normally do. And having seen me the day after the operation, he told me I could go home. One night in hospital following a double mastectomy is quite unusual. People are usually in for about 10 days, but he said I was so fit and so well that I could obviously cope and could go home if I wanted to. I had 4 drains. They never send people home with 4 drains. 4 drains are the most you can have. You don't go home until you've got at least only 2. I went home with 4. My only concern was that my cats might start to think that they were toys or something, but they were good. They didn't understand that they couldn't sit on me. They didn't understand I couldn't pick them up, but they were good and well behaved. So they normally leave the drains in for at least 7 days. I had 2 of my drains taken out the 2 days after my operation. They could have taken all of them out at that point, but they decided it was too soon to be able to take them all out, and left 2 of them in until the Saturday. I had my operation on the Monday. So within a week I had all 4 of them taken out, because the 2 they'd left in weren't doing anything. And I completely believe that the fact that I was up and around and moving about, I'm not doing any exercise, but I was moving around and trying to keep myself, motivated. I think that helped with the drainage. My body definitely was getting rid of the fluid rather than the drains, which is ultimately a much safer process and a much more efficient process. I'd planned my menu before I went in for my operation. I knew that I was going to eat certain foods that were anti-pain, anti-inflammatory. I'd planned everything beforehand, and whether that was what got me back to work so quickly, I don't know. But I had no painkillers the second day after my operation. I had no anti-inflammatories. I did everything without any kind of aids whatsoever. The way that my scars have healed was so fast I couldn't believe it. I cannot honestly tell you the speed at which I recovered is absolutely amazing. I was back at work in a physical job after 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That's incredible. So it absolutely has told me that, the food and the fitness is so important. You cannot imagine how important your food and fitness is. It got me back to work in such an amazing speed of time. I don't particularly have any problems exercising. There's nothing now that I don't do. I'm 3 months down the line. My reconstruction's partially finished. I've got another operation to go in September, but I'm not concerned about that because it will be a really minor thing comparatively to the one I've had done. I feel better. I feel great, knowing that I'm never going to have to worry about having cancer in the breast at all. I am going through genetics still for the ovarian cancer. They tested everything, obviously, when they removed the breasts, and fortunately the cancer had not changed and hadn't gone into my lymph, so I had no need for chemo or radiotherapy, which was one of my concerns, as you can imagine. The testing that's continuing will affect one way or another. I haven't made my mind up what's going to happen with that. I'll wait to see what happens with the BRCA gene. To see what happens with the BRCA gene counsellor and discuss with them when they think that I might have to have further tests for the ovarian cancer. But I haven't made any decisions about that. There is no history of ovarian cancer in my family. However, that is because it's predominantly male. So it's something that I will think about near at the time. I'm not in a rush to discuss or to think about that. The breast cancer was the main concern and the bigger operation. So being 37, they won't do anything unless they feel there's a significant risk. They wouldn't do anything until I was at least 40, 45 anyway. So I've got a little bit of time to think about that. Having had such a big operation that was going to change me physically, I think I'm at a point now where I am trying to learn to love myself. I didn't love myself before, and this is a situation where I've had something changed yet again, and I really am trying to change my opinion of myself, and whether that comes quickly or not, it's something I'm persevering with. I've done a couple of photo shoots with a really good friend of mine who is a professional photographer, and they were something that we had planned on doing. We were thinking of trying to find a way of projecting positive images for women who were having to undergo this kind of surgery. At 37, when I was looking on the internet, there was nothing that I could find that would be positive. I've looked since. I can't find anything that shows anybody be having a normal life or looking happy. All you see is clinical pictures with eyes that are blacked out. So that's something that I wanted to do, not just for myself but for other people. I've had some great feedback. I've had some really, really positive feedback about the pictures. I feel like I'm in quite good shape, considering that it's only 2 or 3 months after the operation. I mean, the photos were taken 10 weeks after, which was phenomenal, really. But most people wouldn't be back at work at that point. The focus that I have is to inspire other people. In summing up, I've been bullied, I've been raped, I've been in an abusive relationship, I've been paralysed, I've had spine damage, I can't have children, I've had double mastectomy, breast cancer, been through suicidal thoughts, tendencies, depression. I'm still here, I'm still battling, and that's what I want to inspire other people to do. Everybody's battle is different, everybody's journey is different, and everybody's experiences are their own. They can't be compared to anybody else's. Watching this video and listening to me talk so calmly, it's not been like this for my whole life. I've not been calm, I've hit rock bottom. But the point is that there's always somebody else who will empathise. You know, talking to somebody else, you don't know what other people have been through. On the surface, they might look like they're okay, like they're coping, like, you know, they're the happiest person in the world, but underneath they could be completely different, and they might just be able to identify with you. And the point is that you can get help, you can talk to other people. Certainly the project that we're doing, this little video that we're doing, is exactly for that. You know, talk to somebody else. Try to see that, you know, whatever the circumstances that you're going through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Impossible is nothing, and I really, really hope that if we can inspire even one or two people to believe that and to motivate, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to gain weight, whether it's to battle through chronic pain, whether it's to battle through operations or a violent relationship, it doesn't matter what it is, you know, that's why we're here. We're stronger together, and that's what I believe, and I think that we can, you know, together we can get through anything.